Coming up today, South Korea and the United States hold high-level defense talks in Seoul on strengthening their military alliance and countering the threat posed by North Korea. Struggling to reach a compromise, Korea's rival parties resume a planned meeting aimed at redrawing constituencies ahead of next year's general election. Plus, despite opposition from former communist countries, European ministers agreed to distribute 120,000 refugees across the EU. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 23rd of September. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with the high-level defense talks currently underway in Seoul. South Korea and the United States are discussing efforts to shore up their military alliance and ways to counter North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Seoul's Deputy Minister for Policy at the Defense Ministry, Yoo Jae-sung, is leading the South Korean delegation at the annual Korea-US Integrated Defense Dialogue. The US is represented by Abraham Denmark, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia, and Elaine Bunn, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear and Missile Defense Policy. US Special Representative for North Korea Policy Sung Kim is also attending to discuss combined deterrence and defense capabilities. Now, this two-day meeting comes as speculation grows North Korea might launch a long-range rocket next month to mark a key anniversary. There are also concerns Pyongyang could conduct a fourth nuclear test. The officials will also discuss the timing of the transfer of wartime operational control from the US to South Korea and the agendas for the security consultative meeting that's set for October or November. Staying in Seoul, but over at the National Assembly now, and a subcommittee meeting aimed at redrawing constituency boundaries for next year's general elections has just resumed. The meeting was called off earlier today, but restarted despite the two parties failing to agree on how many of the current 300 National Assembly seats should be given to proportional representatives and how many to local representatives. The ruling Saenuri Party wants the number of local representatives increased, while the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy wants the number of proportional seats to stay the same. Now, this would be at the expense of cutting the number of local representatives. Last year, Korea's Constitutional Court ruled the nation's electoral districts should be redrawn to address the unequal representation of votes due to population differences in each constituency. Korea's per capita income has been hovering at the $20,000 level for 9 years now. It's one step away from the $30,000 level that would promote Korea to a developed country, according at least to widely used standards. Now, Korea was thought to be on course to break this barrier in 2017, but that's looking less likely now. Our Kwon So-ah tells us why.
Joining the 30-50 club, or countries with $30,000 in GDP per capita and 50 million people, looks to be difficult for Korea to achieve next year. 2016 will be the 10th year since Korea entered the $20,000 group. According to Standard & Poor's, the country is forecast to reach the $30,000 level by 2018, despite the agency's recent upgrading of Korea's credit rating from A+ to AA-. Domestic institutions' forecasts aren't that rosy either. In fact, LG Research Institute expects an on-year drop of $1,000 in 2016 from this year's $27,100. Korea Economic Institute says Korea will become a developed nation by 2017, but only if it maintains its current growth level. But that's looking increasingly unlikely as faltering exports and external uncertainties have led to a downgrading of growth expectations. Forecasts were looking good at the beginning of the year, but slowing growth in China has caused Korea's exports, a key driver of the economy, to drop sharply every month since the start of the year. Global economic woes such as volatile stock markets and uncertainties surrounding the timing of the U.S. Federal Reserve's planned rate hike have had a negative effect as well. Experts say strong domestic consumption has been key for countries to make the leap from a developing to developed country. That means it's essential to find a way of preventing external factors negatively affecting spending inside the country. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Now, staying with economic news and with domestic demand showing some signs of recovery, the head of Korea's central bank says he doesn't expect this year's economic growth to deviate from its 2.8% forecast. Meeting with economic experts on Wednesday, Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol said that despite the country's weak exports, growth will not drop into the low 2% range. However, weak economic performance in the second quarter and worsening global economic conditions may see a minor outlook revision, at least according to the governor. Now, he added that monetary policy will continue to support the economic recovery while maintaining financial stability amid growing external uncertainties. Korean IT giant Daum Kakao is implementing some major new changes from today. A shareholder meeting on this Wednesday adopted a name change for the company while appointing a new CEO, 35-year-old Im Ji-hoon. From today, Daum Kakao becomes just Kakao. The company says it hopes the changes will help it become Korea's leading mobile platform. However, the Daum website and its mobile application will keep their old names. The changes follow the merger 11 months ago of veteran web portal Daum Communications and the mobile platform Kakao Corporation to create Daum Kakao. It was straight to business for Chinese President Xi Jinping as he started his U.S. trip in Seattle to meet with corporate leaders there. President Xi stressed the Chinese economy is growing at a reasonable rate and that China is willing to cooperate with the U.S. and the international community on outstanding issues like cybercrimes. Song Ji-son reports.
Upon his arrival in the U.S., Chinese President Xi Jinping reassured them that China will maintain stable growth and that its economy is within reasonable range. He said its stock market has recovered after suffering a period of severe volatility, and that given the complex and volatile global economic environment, such turmoil was expected. Xi also stressed that as Beijing is opposed to a currency war, it will not devalue its currency to boost exports, and it remains committed to financial reforms and an open economy. He also pledged to cooperate with the U.S. against cybercrime, an issue likely to be discussed during summit talks with his U.S. counterpart, Barack Obama, on Friday. Washington has been saying that Chinese spying is putting a strain on bilateral relations. The two sides will also seek ways to enhance cooperation towards denuclearizing Pyongyang. Territorial tensions in the South China Sea may also be on the table. Xi is also scheduled to fly to New York for his first speech to the UN General Assembly since taking office. Song Ji-son, Arirang News.
Now, as well as the Chinese leader, the U.S. has another high-profile guest as well. Pope Francis has touched down in the United States, embarking on his first trip to the country. And in an unprecedented move, U.S. President Barack Obama and his family welcomed him as he landed at an Air Force base in Maryland. The Pope is scheduled to visit Washington, D.C., New York City and Philadelphia during his 6-day visit. Now, much attention is focused on the speeches the Pope will give to U.S. Congress on Thursday and the UN General Assembly the following day. Pope Francis has been vocal about some controversial political and economic issues such as climate change, economic inequality and gay marriage. Now, after weeks of indecision, EU interior ministers have approved a plan to manage the influx of refugees flooding across its borders. Our Oh Soo-young has this report.
Following the massive influx of migrants into the European Union this year, the EU has passed a quota system to allocate 120,000 migrants across its 28 states. The decision came on Tuesday as EU interior ministers met in Brussels to discuss how to ease the burden on migrant transit countries.
We have a deal. We have decided today to distribute 120,000 asylum seekers, particularly from Italy and Greece, among European member states. Germany will also participate to the extent of around 30,000 people.
Under the plan, 50,400 refugees will be moved from Greece to other countries and 15,600 from Italy. However, the deal has met fierce opposition from 4 eastern nations: Hungary, Slovakia, Romania and the Czech Republic. These countries are concerned the measures may encourage more asylum seekers to move into their regional bloc. With Hungary shunning the relocation plan, the remaining migrants who are supposed to be moved from the country will instead be moved from Italy and Greece. With the scheme being passed by a majority rather than a unanimous vote, this rift between Eastern and Western member states is sparking criticism about the regional bloc's lack of solidarity. Meanwhile, with the inflow of migrants continuing to grow, it is said to be Europe's worst refugee crisis since World War II. EU leaders will meet again on Wednesday to discuss further on how to handle the escalating crisis. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Turning now to the massive fallout from Volkswagen's diesel emissions fraud, the automaker has now admitted that 11 million of its vehicles were fitted with software to help it cheat US pollution tests. And with the value of VW shares plummeting yet again on Tuesday, one of the world's most famous brands is facing an uncertain future. Son Jung-in reports.
It was initially thought that some 500,000 diesel vehicles would be recalled, not because of faulty components, but for the illegal installation of software to cheat on emission standards tests. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's figure has snowballed in a matter of days. After carrying out its own investigation, Volkswagen has confirmed that over 11 million cars sold worldwide were equipped with the so-called defeat device. The German automaker says it's setting aside more than $7.2 billion to cover the fallout. Despite the growing scandal, Volkswagen's CEO has given no indication he might resign. Instead, he apologized for the deception and pledged a fast and thorough investigation.
I am endlessly sorry that we betrayed the trust. I apologize profusely to our clients, to the authorities, and the entire public for the wrongdoing.
But this could just be the beginning for the world's largest automaker. When the U.S. wraps up its probe, Volkswagen is likely to face up to $18 billion in penalties for misleading U.S. regulators. And as the recall has expanded to other countries around the world, the amount of compensation is expected to reach astronomical figures. Plus, class action lawsuits from customers and investors also seem unavoidable. The worrisome development has even prompted the German leader herself to step up to settle the issue.
The Transport Minister, together with Germany's Central Car Registration Agency, is conducting the necessary discussions. This is the only way to achieve transparency.
Having lost 35% off its share price in just 2 trading days since the controversy broke out, the crisis has already cost Volkswagen more than $26 billion in market value. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
An American accused of murdering a Korean student 18 years ago has returned to Korea to stand trial. The Itaewon murder case, or the Burger King murder, as it is known, received huge public attention. Kwon Jang-ho has more.
Dressed in white and looking visibly tired, Arthur Patterson returned to Korea for the first time in 16 years on Wednesday to again face trial for the murder of a Korean university student. The murder occurred on April 3, 1997, in the bathroom of a Burger King in Seoul. The victim was stabbed 9 times with a pocket knife that Patterson had been carrying. 2 suspects, Patterson and his friend Edward Lee, were present at the scene, but both claimed the other carried out the stabbing. The Burger King was located in Itaewon, an area in Seoul close to an American military base. Patterson was the son of an American soldier and a Korean mother, and the case sparked a wave of anti-American soldier sentiment in Korea. Lee was found guilty of the murder initially, but he was later fully acquitted due to lack of evidence. Patterson was to be investigated further, but a prosecutor mistakenly failed to renew his travel ban, and he was able to return to the US. The case went cold for 10 years, until a film in 2009 brought the case to light again, refueling public interest and anger. By December that year, the case was reopened and an extradition request was made to the US. After protracted legal battles regarding his extradition, he finally stepped back on Korean soil in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Although he has shown sympathy for the victim's family, he maintains his innocence.
The family of the victims, it's not right that they have to keep going through this pain over and over and over, but it's not right that I'm here either. I'm still shocked that I'm even here, so.
A major step has been taken in bringing this case forward, but after such a long time, it remains to be seen whether answers to the questions will be found. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
OK, well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll be back throughout the day with many more newscasts. Until then, goodbye.